The things I wear are nearly all completely made by me from scratch. Um, I mean, to me, that is the way. It's kind of the only way. Like I enjoy taking complete agency over what I'm wearing, and having, like, being kind of like giving birth to the clothing. Like it comes out of my head. I think of, I wish I had a dress with giant pockets that I could wear in the garden but then wear out to dinner. Like I'm always thinking in my life, like, what do I need to just be useful and practical in my life and feel comfortable and good in a way that's has nothing to do with, like, what looks flattering, or what accentuates my body. Like, to me, it's just about comfort, and there's an aesthetic appeal that I'm looking for, but it's indefinable. It's just sort of like what is going to make me happy and what I might enjoy seeing in the mirror, but not in a traditional way. More of just I just want to feel good in my clothes.
And so, how did your training in the fashion industry help you arrive at this philosophy where you're at now?
Yeah, I would say, I know it's not easy for everyone because they don't have the skills to make their own clothes, and I'm very thankful that, having trained as a fashion designer, I know how to do every step of the way. And I mean, it's just always been a part of me, so it's hard to even explain. Like, I can't imagine not knowing it. But I feel like for most people, if they begin to think about and learn some very basic skills, it's not as hard as they think. Like, I think a lot of people have the idea of what they'd like to wear once they start exploring it, as opposed to just, taking what is fed to us from the clothing industry. Like, I mean, the the typical way of thinking is just, when you go to the stores, what is there for you to buy, and choosing from that. But if you take that away from the equation and just think, what do I want to wear? What do I need in my life that will, take me through all the actions I do in a day? Um, I don't know, it just becomes like a skill you can hone as to even just determining what you want to wear. And then the actual how to make it is not really very difficult. It's just, as we know, some very simple skills of that are very, very achievable.
And until you engage in that way and start doing something for yourself, you are entrapped by the system, aren't you?
Completely. I mean, I just see the fashion industry as totally a scam. And I feel like they invented that term, planned obsolescence, which we hear about in the tech industry. And it's considered a very evil concept, that they're like planning a limited lifespan. And, it seems like a recent thing. But I always say the fashion industry invented that, ages ago, and no one holds them accountable for it. The whole concept of being dictated what to wear, and then next season or next year what you were wearing is now obsolete and you need to get rid of it and buy new things. It makes no sense when you actually think about it. Clothing has a lifespan. It can last, especially if it's well made and made from good materials. It can last decades at least if you take care of it.
In addition to having choice and options, how does being able to make your own clothes or change existing clothes to suit you, how does that help with your emotional well-being?
I mean, I think the fact that it is giving you, again, like you said, I don't want to say control. I don't think of myself as a controlling person at all, but having the power to imagine what you want, or maybe it's not even an imagining, but a necessity, like understanding and honing in what you need and want to wear, and then taking, I like the word agency is a good one. Taking that back and not being at the mercy of industry and commerce and people just trying to make money, which is really what the clothing industry is all about. Just taking it upon yourself to determine is, well, you asked about mental health, and I go on too many tangents.
But I guess that there's that part, but there's also the process and how useful the process is.
Yeah, to me, that's what's exciting, is like the combination of creativity and just normal function of what I need, and bringing those together with, I do get very inspired by the materials. So whether I'm using new materials or recycling or upcycling something from a thrift store, or even something I already have in my closet, like that whole process is very exciting to me. I know it can be kind of overwhelming to some people, but I think a simple way to start is just to make a really simple garment, and maybe even just use, try using an old sheet. Everyone has an old sheet in their closet, and you can make a very simple garment, and then I think that will open up the possibilities to how you can, with baby steps, build your skills, and eventually maybe consider making your whole wardrobe, or just appreciating the process to a point where you might see that you might pay a little more money to support something made by a maker who's doing things the right and ethical and sustainable way. And even if it's just like, it doesn't have to be about, can I afford $100 dress versus a $16 dress. It's more about, like, if you're gonna keep and wear that $100 dress for years or decades longer, and maybe invest the time in mending it and maintaining it, you're not spending any more money. It's just a different mindset and a different process. And to me, that all just feels good and right, and not engaging in the system of creating so much waste and buying all these cheap things that add up to so much more, because people just shop as like a hobby and a recreation, and they bring home so much stuff that even though the things are cheap, they're spending in total way more, and it's just becoming landfill. And I won't even get into all the channels of where the waste goes, but like, to me, I just can't even stand the idea of participating in that system. So it's not even a choice I make for, yes, making is very soothing and relaxing, and it is what I do to relax and ease my stress of the day. But to me, it's also just sort of the only choice that I can feel good about, and not start thinking about all the ramifications of the dark side of.
Can you talk a little more about the soothing nature of using a needle and thread?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and whether, for most, so I've been a clothing designer and maker for over 30 years. And most of that time I've been using the sewing machine, which I still consider, handmade. But in the past couple of years, I've definitely taken up the hand needle and thread, which is taking it to the next level. So it used to be the crocheting was like what I did in the evening for my hand work, relaxing, just unwinding at the end of the day concept. But then the machine sewing was usually what I did during the day, and that felt more like work, and then the crocheting was kind of my relaxing. But now that I've taken up hand sewing, it's kind of all just a jumble, and I mean, most of the time I don't know if I'm working or playing anyway. I don't know that I need to define the difference between the two. But the hand sewing, which I thought I would never do because I'm slow at everything I do, and so to me, at least the help of the machine to speed along the stitching part of it, because stitching is only one small part of the whole process of making things. But taking it back, and it's almost like, how slow can we slow it down to, you know? And it's opened up a whole new world to me that I can now sew either on my couch at home or on an airplane or out in my garden. Like anywhere you go, you can keep a little project with you. The knitters all know about this, but taking sewing into that realm has really kind of just even amazed me. And also it removes the machine element, which for a lot of people was always a stressful element of sewing, because they would have problems with the machine. The thread would get tangled. They don't know how to deal with certain problems and things. So the needle and thread just simplifies and distills it down to a kind of pure, beautiful essence that makes it even more achievable and accessible and simple. And you don't need, all you need is a needle and thread and some kind of fabric, and you can make a garment, which is a very beautiful thing.